The dim glow of the emergency lantern
Hey, look at
flickered
me.
across the cramped interior of the
right.
escape pod,
I've got you.
casting long, uneasy shadows that danced like accusations on the curved metal walls. We had been drifting for 6 days since the colony ship Ether tore itself apart in the asteroid field, 2 survivors sealed together in this fragile tin can, breathing recycled air that tasted of fear and regret. Captain Alara Voss sat across from me on the narrow bench, her posture rigid despite the exhaustion etching deep lines around her silver-flecked eyes. She was everything I wasn't: composed, authoritative, the woman who had commanded hundreds with a single raised brow. And I was just Lieutenant Kai Ren, the junior navigation officer who had somehow pulled her from the debris before the vacuum claimed her. The silence between us had grown heavier with every passing hour, thick with unspoken questions about the explosion, about the lives lost, about why the distress beacon still hadn't drawn rescue. My throat felt raw from the dry air, but I couldn't hold it in anymore. The suspicion had been gnawing at me since the second day, when I caught her whispering into her comms unit in a language that didn't match any standard protocol. I said one thing, I murmured finally, my voice cracking the quiet like a stone dropped into still water. Just one thing back on the bridge before it all went to hell. I told you the course correction felt off, like the NAV data had been tampered with. You dismissed it. Laughed it off as rookie nerves. But Alara, if you knew something, if you saw the warning signs and didn't. Her head snapped up, those piercing hazel eyes locking onto mine with an intensity that made my pulse spike. The pendant around her neck, a sleek, obsidian teardrop veined with glowing circuitry, the kind issued only to high-ranking officers for emergency vitals monitoring, caught the lantern light and held it. For a heartbeat, nothing happened. Then, as my words hung in the air, the veins inside the stone ignited. A soft, ethereal blue light pulsed outward, bathing her collarbone in an otherworldly glow that seemed to throb in time with her sudden, sharp intake of breath. Ilara's hand flew to the necklace instinctively, fingers trembling as they brushed the now radiant surface. The light didn't fade, if anything, it brightened, casting sapphire highlights across her face and turning her expression from guarded to something raw, almost shattered. Suspense coiled in my chest like a live wire, my heart hammered so loudly I was sure she could hear it over the pod's humming life support systems. What was this thing? Not just a monitor. No standard issue reacted like that. It was as if my single accusation had triggered some hidden protocol, forcing a truth to the surface whether she wanted it or not. Kai, she whispered, her voice barely above the mechanical whisper of the air recyclers. The glow intensified, painting her cheeks in cool blue, and I saw the exact moment the fight drained from her shoulders. Her lips parted, then pressed tight, as if the words were being pulled from her against her will. Tears, actual tears, glistened at the corners of her eyes, and in that suspended moment, the woman who had always seemed unbreakable looked heartbreakingly human. You have no idea what you've done. I leaned forward, the bench creaking under me, every muscle tense with a mix of dread and desperate hope. The pod felt smaller suddenly, the walls closing in as the blue light from her necklace reflected off the scratched viewport, turning the endless black of space into a fractured mirror. Outside, stars wheeled slowly in our uncontrolled spin, indifferent to the storm brewing inside. Tell me, I pressed, my own voice thick with emotion. Whatever this is, whatever that thing is doing to you. I need to know. We're all that's left. If there's a reason the ship died, if someone caused it. The necklace flared brighter, its light now steady and insistent, like a heartbeat synced to confession. Ilara closed her eyes for a long second, her breath coming in shallow bursts. When she opened them again, the vulnerability there hit me like a physical blow, years of command stripped away, revealing the woman beneath who had carried secrets heavy enough to crush stars. It's a truth veil, she said at last, the words tumbling out in a rush, as if the device wouldn't let her stop. Black Ops Tech. Issued to those of us who might need to hide the truth even from ourselves. It activates on direct confrontation with a known lie. One genuine challenge, and it forces honesty. No filters. No evasion. Gods, Kai, I never thought it would trigger like this. My stomach twisted. Emotion surged through me, shock, betrayal, a strange aching pity that made my hands clench into fists. I had admired her, followed her orders without question, even developed feelings I'd buried deep during those long shifts on the bridge. The way she moved with quiet grace, the rare smiles she'd gifted me in the mess hall that made the vastness of space feel less lonely. And now this. You knew, I breathed, the words laced with pain. About the NAV data. You knew it was tampered with. She nodded slowly, the necklace's glow casting shadows that made her face look haunted. Tears slipped free now, tracing paths down her dust-streaked cheeks, and the sight of them, Hilara Voss crying, twisted something deep in my chest. Yes. I knew. More than that. I was the one who altered it. The confession hung between us, raw and devastating, her voice breaking on the admission. The pod systems hummed on, oblivious, but inside, everything shattered. I felt the emotional intensity like a vice around my heart. The woman I had risked everything to save had played a part in dooming us all. Why? The question tore from me, suspense building as the blue light pulsed faster, mirroring the rapid beat of her pulse visible at her throat. My mind raced through possibilities: sabotage for profit, corporate espionage, some desperate bid for power in the colonies. But her next words unraveled it all in a way I could never have prepared for. Because they had my daughter, she whispered, the truth spilling like blood from an old wound. The corporation. They took Lila 3 years ago. Said it was for advanced training on a classified station. But I found the files. Experiments. Genetic alterations to create perfect officers who wouldn't question orders. I tried to get her back quietly, but they threatened to terminate the program if I interfered. The only leverage I had was my position on the ether. They promised me, if I ensured the ship's logs showed a clean run, if I adjusted the NAV to route us through that unstable field without raising alarms, they'd release her. One small change. No one would know. The explosion, it wasn't supposed to happen. The asteroids were denser than predicted. I thought I could control it, reroute at the last second, but... Her voice cracked completely, and she buried her face in her hands, shoulders shaking with silent sobs that shook the bench. The necklace continued to glow, unrelenting, illuminating the depth of her anguish. I sat frozen, the weight of her revelation pressing down on me like the gravity we'd lost. Suspense knotted my gut, part of me wanted to rage, to demand how she could gamble hundreds of lives for one child, even her own. But another part, the part that had seen her comfort a grieving ensign after a training accident, that had watched her stare out at the stars with quiet longing, understood the fierce, breaking love of a mother pushed to the edge. I said one thing, I repeated softly, my own eyes burning now as I reached across the narrow space between us. My fingers brushed hers, tentative at first, then gripping tight when she didn't pull away. The contact sent a jolt through me, warm skin against the chill of the pod, two broken souls adrift in the void. And it lit up everything. Hilara. God, I'm so sorry. For Lila. For what they made you do. But all those people. I know, she gasped, lifting her head to meet my gaze. The blue light softened slightly, as if the device sensed the truth had fully surfaced, but it didn't extinguish. Her eyes, red-rimmed and desperate, searched mine for judgment, for forgiveness she clearly didn't expect. I live with it every second. The guilt eats me alive. I told myself it was the only way, that saving one life could justify the risk. But seeing you pull me from the wreckage, hearing you fight to keep us both alive these past days, it's torn me apart. You're a good man, Kai. Better than I deserve. And now you know the truth I've been dying to bury. The emotional intensity peaked, a storm of feelings crashing over me, anger at the corporation's cruelty, heartbreak for the child caught in their web, a confusing swell of affection for the woman who had sacrificed her soul to protect what she loved most. Suspense lingered in the air like static. Would rescue ever come? Would the corporation's agents find us first, silencing her before she could expose them? Or would this fragile pod become our tomb, two survivors bound by a single lit necklace and the devastating honesty it had unleashed?